What's new in the neighborhood? Talking trash, driving for good. Serving up that latest shit. It's NDKC Hot Dish. You know you wanna listen in. You wanna know the latest spin. It's a little swish swish with NDKC Hot Dish. NDKC Hot Dish.
Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and jump into this. I do want to remind everybody that this is a conversation, okay? We are friends, and this is a safe space. So if someone says something that you resonate with, just chime in and keep the dialogue moving, okay? This is a time to speak and be heard. This is an opportunity to educate ourselves and our viewers. Hey, viewers. And, this is a serious topic. It's for real, in this age of social media and pop culture and plastic surgery. We are constantly being flooded with this narrative that our natural bodies are not good enough, okay? And we have a whole generation that's growing up in that kind of narrative, right? I mean, it's unhealthy. Teenagers, kids going home hating themselves and their bodies because they don't look like an Instagram model. That breaks my heart, So we have something like this, and what No Divide does and what Hot Dish does is to bring people together and we discuss these tough situations and these topics and really just connect with one another about it. And hopefully through your stories that are shared today, someone will be watching and say, hey, they went through it, they've gone through it, maybe I can too. So that's what it really all comes down to. Everybody good with that?
Love it.
All righty. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and start with the first question then. And it's a simple one. And that is, what does body positivity mean to you? Anybody want to start?
Well, okay, I'll go first. So I thought about this and I talked to my wife about it because, as I mentioned before this started, this is a more vulnerable subject for me. I'm a musician, so I'm used to being on the internet and talking about that, but this is a new subject for me to open up about, so thank you for having me here. But body positivity, it's a fairly new practice for me. I've been dealing with body dysmorphia most of my life and 2 decades of bulimia. Hopefully sorry if that's triggering anybody. I should have warned before, but anyway, so it's a whole new journey to understand what body positivity means at all, much less to myself. But now I'm starting to discover that it's time to just the definition of it is to accept every part of my body, every part of my being, my physical being, because I've never quite gotten to that point at all. I've never even considered that I'm body negative. So body positivity to me now is just to learn to appreciate, with the eventual goal to hopefully love and embrace every part of myself. So that's what it means to me.
It's fairly new for me as well, Nicole. When we decided to talk about this, I was thinking about that question myself. I was sending you all out all these questions and things, and I'm like, damn, I didn't really think about the questions myself. But yeah, it's a fairly new process and journey to me. And I think once you start it, it's going to be an ongoing process. I think a lot of life is about an ongoing process. And for me, like you said, it's about accepting every part of your body. And I'm not fully there yet, no. But, I have definitely started that process and taking it one step at a time. And I think it definitely overlaps with self-love, too. And when you get that going, you on a roll.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what I always tell my wife. I'm like, today's a 1 step back day, where I look in the mirror and all of a sudden I'm not okay with anything that I see. And the day before, I finally, I could appreciate what was there, and I didn't feel bad about it. And I know body positivity is possible, and because I'm closer to it every day, and I see so many inspiring people in my life that have achieved it and practice it and are an example. And so it's great to have a community that is body positive, so I can get there too, maybe.
Absolutely.
Nicole, I really relate to what you're saying there with talking about body dysmorphia. I've also lived with body dysmorphia and disordered eating for a number of years. From a very young age, like around age 12 or 13 is when it started developing for me. Yeah. So, and also what you were saying, kind of like body positivity. Well, first of all, I think body positivity can be in a lot of different contexts, but in terms of body image, body shape, fatness versus thinness, the spectrum in between, I have been working kind of in the past year or so, just appreciating, like you said, or accepting what I have, not necessarily being able to love yet, because putting that pressure on myself can sometimes be overwhelming, but just being able to look at it and just radically accept, like, this is what I have, this is what it is right now. This form bears all the memories and experiences that I've been going through. It changes with my life and it's working for me right now. And that neutral acceptance is kind of where I need to get first, I feel, before the love can happen.
Yeah, I agree, JD. Like for me, body positivity, it is something newer. Like growing up, little Black girl in the projects, we didn't talk about that. Like that wasn't something that came up. So when I like went into like more of the fashion field, like it came up a lot more doing plus size and things like that. And for me, it's just appreciating, like you said, your body in the moment, in the state that it is in. Yes, you could want to change it. Yes, it could be changing as it is, but in the moment that it is, appreciated for what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't do. And if you're looking to change it, then work towards there, but just try to appreciate what you have in the moment.
That's beautiful. Oh yeah.
I definitely feel like it's, just addressing society's unrealistic body expectations and promoting all body types to help people build acceptance and confidence in their bodies.
And for me, part of like body positivity is totally JD and Alesha, like you both kind of nailed it on the head for me, saying like accepting your body in the moment, but it's also understanding that your body is here to protect you. And in whatever shape and form it's in, it's because it loves you, even if your brain is in disagreement. And like for me, my, disordered eating, diet culture survivor, coming out of that and like really understanding myself again, I guess in the last year, thanks quarantine, giving us all a bunch of time to become introspective, but understanding that like, you know what, my body is the way it is because it's protecting me. It's keeping me safe. It's become soft and supple because that's comforting. And we need that right now. And I just think that's such a powerful flip of viewing your body, like, oh, it's so soft and squishy because that's what good, happy things are, like that's a big thing that came out of body positivity and fat liberation for me, is that my body exists this way for a reason, and it's to keep me safe and comforted.
Yeah, your body is really a reflection of who you are on the inside. If you on the outside don't reflect who you are in the inside, it's kind of hard. And that goes, for even people who are going through like gender identity issues and all that. So it's like body positivity isn't only just accepting the physical form, but like mentally as well, like having that perfect harmony and finding that balance of accepting the outside within the inside and having that be mirrored equally and just radiating, greatness and who you are, just genuinely and with no barrier whatsoever.
All have really changed in this matter of minutes, changed my perspective of even further of what I even thought. The journey I was on. What you saying about my body is the way it is because it's like that to protect me, to keep me safe. That's deep. I had never thought of it like that. That really resonated with me. Thank you for saying that, because that makes me look at it myself differently. Like I said, it's a process. And like Nicole, you were saying, you take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That is so true. Especially for me, like, I'll go one day and I'm like, okay, I'm not looking too bad today. Then my period comes and I'm bloated and everything looks wrong. And I'm like, I don't know if I can cuss in here or not. But, I'm like, shit, okay? And yeah, my body is like this to protect me. That is, and to keep me safe. That's powerful. And even JD, what you were saying about, learning to just, not even at this point of I love this part of my body or whatever, but saying that I just accept it as it is right now. It's just there. which makes me wonder, like, I have a question for y'all. What are some rituals or practices that you have adopted in your body positivity journey to kind of help aid you in this, or something that you've learned to do?
I've honestly just let myself be completely myself and not put myself in a box, which is like just experimenting with the way I dress, my hair. I do identify as non-binary here as of recent, so I'm just trying to still, figure myself out. And unfortunately, I feel like when you come out as whatever, people still want to put a stereotype on you. I felt like I wouldn't look non-binary enough. So just allowing myself to just be completely myself and not worry if I look the part, just being my most authentic self that I can be in that moment.
Yeah, that issue of needing to, be accepted in that box of, if you're non-binary, that means you have to be in that perfect middle of not being too masculine or too feminine. And then that becomes an issue within your own identity, because it's like, what if today I just feel like I want to be girly and have the makeup and, all the frills, and maybe with the frills, maybe I also have basketball shorts under and, some pair of Jordans. Like, it doesn't matter. When you put that idea of identity in like such narrow-minded and small little circles, it really does close off from creativity and being an individual. Individuals are individuals for a reason. It's unique. You are your own person. You have your favorite music. You have your favorite color. You have your favorite food. So why must you have to fit in that circle to relate to everyone else? I mean, like I said, circles can be helpful because then it helps us find the groups to relate to and find our crowd, but you don't need that all the time. You don't need to check all those boxes.
Right.
Ashton, I encourage you also that we have some non-binary folks in our group, Tanith and JD, that I know of, and anyone else, feel free to correct me. So I want you to link up with them after this. I will give you the info because it's good to have a community and people that you can relate to. And they've been through a lot, and they can share a lot with you as well on your journey.
And then maybe a future episode, I'm thinking that's something to talk about later. Just saying.
Well, something that I've been doing, I'm a fan of Salty Newsletter. I found them on Instagram, but they have a website. It's saltyworld.com. It's written by queer, trans, non-binary, Black, Hispanic, sex worker, all sorts of femmes. If they're part of it, they write it, sort of thing. And what kind of revolutionized for me is I saw an article that said, share nudes with your friends because no one gasses you up like your friends. And I started doing that because, like, again, super self-conscious of my lovely, soft, fat body and, all this stuff. But, like, I started sending nudies, consensual nudies to my friends. And I, like, oh my gosh, they made me swoon. They absolutely made me swoon. A friend of mine was like, if I wasn't so against eating the rich, I'd call you royalty. And I was just like, what? What? I'm like, nobody's ever said anything that nice. But like for some people, like just being naked is a form of being themselves. And like that was very true for me. I did burlesque for years. A lot of people are like, I feel like I've seen you. I'm like, have you seen me naked? And they're like, what kind of question is that? I'm like, you'll understand in a second. And the answer is always yes, you've seen me, twirling tassels and shaking my booty because I did it for 7 years. And so nudity has always just been a comfort zone for me. And so sharing nudes with, friends, like revolutionized body positivity for me, because here are these people who aren't there to view you as a sex object. They're there to make you feel good about yourself. And like, oh, it works. Like it turned a bad day into an instant, amazing good day. Like that. It was incredible. I loved it.
That was actually my thing that I picked up, okay? It's just being in the nude. I love it now. Like when I walk through the door, the first thing I do is all this comes off. Okay, I only did this for y'all. This is for y'all. But like, I mean, and this is fairly recently. Like, I've always lived with people, so I couldn't just walk out and just do that. But a couple of years ago, I started just sleeping naked, and it was something. A couple of years ago, I tried doing it, and I felt extremely uncomfortable. Like I just could not do it. I couldn't sleep or anything. And I started doing this, and the first couple of times, yeah, it was uncomfortable, and it just became a ritual to the point that it didn't even bother me. It was just there. It was fine. And that was one thing. And then I got to the point where I was actually living alone for the first time. So I could walk around naked and in the nude. And by doing that, I swear it just did something to me in a positive way. Like I feel so comfortable now in my skin. And it wasn't even about, I wasn't even thinking about even now, like, oh, what is other people going to think when they see me or my lover or my partner? It was just more how I felt about myself, because that's where it starts. It starts with how you look at yourself and how you feel about yourself. And I was just like, I could look in the mirror, I could be fine, I can dance, I could walk around, I could cook dinner and just be in my natural state. And it's something so empowering about that. I don't really know the science behind it or anything. I just know it feels good. And it didn't feel good at first, but just doing it so much, it's just like, this is my natural state. Putting on clothes now is what feels uncomfortable. Not really, but because I like clothes. Okay, let's be honest.
Dude,
But,
same.
so yeah. So burlesque is something I've never tried before, Tanith, but it's something I definitely would be interested in trying. I used to watch the shows and the contest on YouTube and things like that. I've always wanted to see one live. I haven't seen one live yet. So if you know any that comes out post-COVID, you let me know.
I will, absolutely. And I'd be happy to give pointers and tips to everybody as well. You want to learn how to throw some tassels? I got all of you. You got it.
I was actually going to say, I've been toying with the idea of doing burlesque for a couple of years, and I've had some close friends try to nudge me, and I think that might be a part of my future journey, perhaps. So I'm not quite there, but I admire it so much, and I know that when I get to that chapter of this journey, that's going to lead to true freedom. So I have other practices in the meantime. But sleeping naked, like I've been married I've been with my wife for almost 6 years now, and only recently have I been able to do that. To sleep naked with my own wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, hopefully it's TMI, sorry, but in a non-sexual way, just sleeping, just being on my side and sleeping and being comfortable. I've never been comfortable with that. This summer I wore a swimsuit for the first time, like in 5 years or something, like just just kind of celebrating every moment that I get there. But the practices, like, it really started with me. I joined a therapy app called Talkspace. It was like 1, 2 in the morning, and I was just grieving. I just cut out a toxic relationship with a parent after 34 years of true turmoil and trauma, and joined this Talkspace app, and boy, it really took addressing my trauma, and that wasn't an overnight thing, and it's been a year and a half now, and I'm still 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but talking, me and my wife talk constantly, and there's no holding back with it. So talking, having conversation, not judged, feeling loved by at least one other person in the world that will hear me out and let me get kind of just drop the weight, the emotional weight. And even just by moving forward in my life with that, I've started practicing better eating, not to lose weight, not with the intention of getting in a smaller jean size for the first time in my life, doing it because I just want my body to feel a little better. It's just these small decisions every day are adding up to real improvement. So just practice, taking it day by day as well. So that's mine.
Oh, all righty. Well, let's keep it moving along. All righty. Well, this one, I would like to, give my non-binary friends a chance to kind of share their experience with coming to terms with their identity, and also how it relates to how they view their bodies now.
Yeah, like I said, I think maybe this could end up being a future episode where we go a little bit more in depth. But I can say that I only very recently came to terms with a non-binary identity, and it's kind of very complicated and nuanced because it involves, for me, feeling multiple genders or fluidly feeling gender. And a lot of that kind of concentrates on the male or masculine side for me, which is why I still do sometimes describe myself as a man, but I describe myself as a non-binary man. In terms of body, of course, gender dysphoria can come in so many forms. It can be related to body, it can be related to language, it can be related to social role, it can be related to your clothing or other aspects of your presentation, it can be related to voice, and things like that. In terms of, for me, how it relates to body, I do sometimes experience body-related gender dysphoria, and it's difficult to kind of, it feels very daunting, really, to look at the medical industry and think, okay, there may be some changes I could make to my body that make me feel better. But one, because I feel my gender so fluidly, I'm sometimes satisfied with what I have, sometimes dissatisfied. That moves along a spectrum. And whatever changes I make, after all the time, money, energy, and pain and recovery and medical trauma to go through all of that, I will still be in a place where I'm satisfied with some things and dissatisfied with other things. So the way that I have to cope with that is just, again, going back to the neutral acceptance. So sometimes I'm able to say, I love this part of my body. This part of my body feels like me. This feels like my gender right now. But then maybe the next day it doesn't feel like that. But then I just try to return to, okay, this is my body as it is. This is what my body has done for me. It's sustained me. Like as Tanith said, it's protected me. It's done a lot of things for me. It's pulled me and carried me through so many experiences, and it bears the marks of those experiences. And the way that my body is gendered has also been an experience for me that my body itself has carried me through. So I just always have to come back to radical acceptance. And radical acceptance is something that kind of gets thrown around a lot. I mean it kind of in the guise of dialectical behavioral therapy, which is the type of therapy that I go through as a person with borderline personality disorder. And no, I'm not going to go into explaining it too much. I don't want to take up too much time, but one of its core concepts is radical acceptance. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you are celebrating or praising or loving or endorsing something you're radically accepting. It's more just like a neutral understanding of the facts of how something came to be. So I'm looking at my body in the moment and understanding, okay, here's the facts of how I, in this body, came to be embodied this way. And I can't go back and change those facts. And that can kind of create a serenity of like, it's not my job to try and go back and change those facts. It's not my job to change the way those facts look to other people and the way they perceive those facts. None of that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. I came out when I was 29. I'm 32 now. And so, and honestly, I knew I was a different gender, but I didn't have the words for it until I met another non-binary person who was going through their own transition and their own acceptance of their gender identity. And it just clicked. I was like, that's it. That's me. Me. And, coming to terms with what it means to be, fat and non-binary, as opposed to, everyone having this like social idea that non-binariness, Kat kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, this idea that non-binary is androgynous, that it's this perfect in between the binary, which is
whatever that looks like,
whatever that means. I don't know, but like, people think of like David Bowie, Prince, Ezra Miller, these people who are just like toe the line between masculine and feminine, and often they're very thin. So when you say you're non-binary and you show up and you're genuinely fat and you're visibly fat, people are like, oh no, you're making it up. Or they read you in one direction or the other. And so your gender identity becomes completely invalidated by your body identity, just because of how we as a society are just trained to view bodies, and so that's something that I've been coming to terms with over the last few years. And I follow a whole bunch of like radical fat liberation, non-binary people on Instagram and all my socials. I've been consuming bodies that look like mine in terms of like media consumption, and it's made it a radical acceptance in that way, like saying, hey, my body is a good body, it's protecting me. And you know what? My body is a sexy body too. And just because it's not this, Greek Adonis androgynous, picture perfect photoshopped version of what non-binary is supposed to look like via a cis fantasy, it's still a valid body, and my gender identity is still valid. And my favorite part about being non-binary is that we can look however we want. We can be however we want. And all versions of it is valid, just like all versions of being a woman is valid. All versions of being a man is valid. And so there's a lot of, sorry, my cat's talking at me. You want to say hi to everyone? No? Okay, that's fair. She gets shy. But basically it's like, hey, we exist, we're here, and all of us are different. And so it just takes that like notion of body positivity of all bodies are different and good bodies just a little bit further, because you have that non-binary outside of, the two gender system. Because non-binary literally could be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of identity, and I love that, and I love embracing that in my body positivity.
I recently came out as non-binary. I actually moved to Kansas City from West Virginia, a little tiny town. So I maybe have known like 3 out queer people, so definitely no non-binary individuals. So since I've moved, I really have felt like I've allowed myself to really experience who I am, and I definitely identify as non-binary, and I feel like I have for a long time. But back to being like body neutral, I definitely feel like that's probably the best thing I've learned is just accepting your body as it is now and not having to like love it. You totally don't have to love your body right now, and that's totally fine, that's valid, but just doing well like mentally and just stopping those negative thought patterns have really helped me with like being non-binary and my body, because I do believe I deal with body dysmorphia. It's kind of new to me, but I'm going through the motions. So it's been a beautiful struggle. Like I don't know everything about body positivity, but I think just taking it a day at a time and just accepting yourself, like you said earlier, is definitely a really good thing to do.
Nicole, hey.
Hey.
How's it going? You with us still?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything. You just did you say something before that?
Oh no, I didn't.
Making sure
we're all
I
hearing things.
I have a lot of animals. I have 4 cats, so I've been sorry.
That too. I feel
Cat
ya.
lady. Yeah, double the trouble over here. But sorry, yeah, here. Hey.
Hey. So you have a new project that you just created called No Shame. I would like for you to share more with that share more of that with us, please.
Sure, much more comfortable to share about No Shame, but body positivity is a part of No Shame, and it is a part of body positivity that I am sure of. So, I've been feeling helpless in the world with the way things are, as most of us are. And I saw a tweet recently, and the tweet simply was this. It said, normalize donating tampons and pads to homeless shelters. And it blew my mind to just have it so plainly put like that, and to all of a sudden just realize this specific situation of people that are homeless, on top of just struggling generally to find work and food, but also experiencing a period without resources, without products. It horrified me, and it also took me back to my struggle with homelessness off and on between 19 and 23. And actually not being able to afford tampons myself and having to steal from the stockroom of my job. And tying the things together, I reached out to one of my friends who runs a nonprofit that No Divide has worked with called Kansas City Heroes. And I created No Shame. It's a period project for our houseless community, and basically raising awareness about the issue of the period needs for our houseless community. It's inclusive, of course, to non-binary, trans men, and of course women. Anybody that needs a period, it's no questions asked. We we go to 2 a week, 2 different houseless picnics, and deliver period products, soap, deodorant, all sorts of hygiene items. And we're expanding it to taking direct requests from the community. So specific types of clothing, body spray. Somebody asked for nail polish, so they're getting nail polish on Saturday. We're really just trying to do something to make up for the hopelessness we also feel because we have power in what we do. So I didn't have anything ready to go when I started No Shame, and now I'm sitting in front of behind me is tons of donations. They just keep coming in, and it's been amazing, and our community is so it's just been a great experience so far. So that's what I'm trying to do, to continue body positivity and do something good, hopefully.
Thank you so much, because that's needed. That is very much needed. I mean, I think about that too when when I think about homelessness, and I'm like, what about those who have periods? Like, how can you navigate that? I remember watching a documentary, and they had talked to some individuals who have been dealing with homelessness and were struggling to find period products, and they had to like literally take pieces of sock and wrap it around and do all of a lot of things that we would consider unsanitary. And it's so great that you have that. I know when I came across No Shame, I started to, and I realized it was about period products and such. I was thinking about my own shame with periods, right? And I still to this day, like I get so subconscious going to the store to buy a tampon or a pad. I'm a grown ass woman. Like I don't like. I still deal with that shame of it. That narrative of feeling like you're unclean or something is wrong with you. And I don't know where that came from. It's just something that I've always had to deal with. And I think it wasn't until like I got, in my, more mid 20s, and I was around other people who were freely talking about their periods and the flow and how irregular it can be and all kinds of things they do. I'm like, oh, okay, you guys are very comfortable talking about this. And that was another part of my body positivity, my self-love, is learning to accept that part of me. That's something that's there. And I know, there might be TMI, but hey, it is what it is. And but yeah, taking the shame out of that's a whole thing in itself, because a lot of people deal with that kind of shame. So thank you for what you're doing. We all appreciate it. And I'm sure the people that you are helping truly consider you a godsend. I'm just happy to be able to have support from the community, because it's the donations that make the difference. I'm just making sure they get to people that need them. So, and you're right, the subject of periods has brought shame for, I think, most of us who experience them are almost our whole lives. It's something we can't talk about. It's a secret. And so hopefully this will also shine a light on that problem, because based on the support of this, people understand it's very humanizing to talk about periods, and especially in relation to people without homes who can't afford the product to have some dignity with their menstrual health. And so I appreciate you letting me come on to talk about that. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing about that. All righty. And so going to the next business, Alesha, you have an amazing retail going on, Unleash Plus Fashion, or resale, Unleash Plus Resale. Yes, you are doing great things for, women X with an X, in the plus size community that are oftentimes overlooked and don't get the credit that they truly deserve. Cue Lizzo. But anyway, would you like to share more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. I'm the owner of Unleash Plus Size Resale. We're the only secondhand shop in Kansas City that caters to plus size women. In our shop, we cater to women size 14 and up. We strive to help build community, build confidence, and build self-love amongst plus size women in KC and beyond. And like our ways that we do that, of one, of course, through fashion. Like you said, like finding clothes as a larger body woman can be very hard. If you're just not going to like specialty shops. And then when you find those specialty shops, it's extremely expensive. And a lot of people can't afford that. And even if you can, you don't want to spend $60, $70 on one item. So we do that through fashion. We also have a partner company, Curve Cultivation Plus Size Dance Experience. So we do dance classes catering to plus size women. And then we also have events throughout the year. We have a plus size pool party called Plus Palooza. And then we do a trap burlesque, so kind of baby burlesque to what you do, Tanith. So maybe I can have you come in and like teach us while we're getting ready, but we do that every year as well.
Great, good for you. And where can the folks find you? You have a website?
Yes, so we are online, www.shopunleashed.com. And we're on Instagram at Shop Unleashed and Facebook at Unleashed. Unleashed is spelled like my name, so there's no A in there. It's UN, capital L, capital E, capital SH. ED. So just Unleashed on all 3 platforms, and then you can find us like that. We're at 39th and Truce, 3945 Truce. So we do have a storefront. You can come in and see us, and we're open Wednesday through Saturday, 12 to 6 p.m.
All righty. Sounds good. Thank you so much for that. You know, and that also brings me to another topic. JD, I know you had reached out to me. You had this question that I think is important to talk about fatopia or fatphobia in body positive spaces and what that looks like. Do you want to comment on that?
Unmute myself. Yeah, that was actually, I just phrased something that Tanith brought up in our email thread into a question, so I can maybe pass it on over to them.
Oh, sure. Body positivity is a relatively newer movement, and a lot of you are new to it, but it was born out of fat liberation, which was started by fat Black women. And so it kind of got co-opted into a more generic body acceptance and whatnot. But oftentimes you'll see these body positive influencers who are still what is called straight sized women, or straight size, which means they can buy their clothes from a normal Target or Forever 21, like fat fashion or fast fashion and whatnot. So clothing is readily accessible. And so you see these influencers contorting their bodies in really weird forms to be like, hey, look, I got rolls too. It's kind of to show that they too are fat and experience fat phobia, and the mistreatment of fat people in these spaces is just astronomical, because it was born out of a need for fat acceptance. And in medical spaces, I've been told that all my medical problems can be solved if I lose weight. That's not something a straight sized person would experience by a doctor. You wouldn't have your doctor say, oh, you're experiencing all this weird chronic gut pain. If you had a green diet and lost 50 pounds, it would magically go away. That's detrimental to your health, that your fat suddenly determines your medical worth. I started telling doctors hey, can you put in my medical record that you refuse to take my concerns seriously, and that you refuse to get the testing that I need done, and detail out why you're not going to help me. And it almost shames them into actually helping me, because they don't want to put I'm a fat phobic asshole in my medical record. But fat phobia shows up all the time in body positivity, especially someone my size would be I don't want to say classified, but I'm a small to mid fat. I can still find my size at most mainstream stores, but it's difficult. But anyone bigger than me, they're shunned out of the community. We talked about burlesque and how I did burlesque for 7 years. Burlesque is a prime example of a body positive space that shames fat people who are not at an acceptable fat shape. Flat stomach, big butt, big tits, no flabbies anywhere, no cellulite, no weird shapes or dimples on your body. There's an idyllic fat shape that's acceptable. And if you don't meet that, if you have like me, I got 3 rolls on my tummy. I love them. I think they're great. They're soft. They keep me safe, but that's not idyllic. I don't have the flat stomach. And so a lot of times you experience the fat phobic that goes with that. Oh, you got back rolls? Oh, you got 2 back rolls? Oh no, that's no good. But then you see these thin people capitalizing on it, being like, look, if I move my arm in this way, you get this tiny itty bitty roll. I'm fat too. And it's just a massive slap in the face. because all the self-love in the world isn't going to stop people from treating you less than when you're out in public and you can't find clothes that fit you and you can't find cute clothes that fit you. Everything is just shapeless with really gauche and gaudy patterns that aren't fun, you know? And so I love that you have, at least you have this secondhand store with, I've been admiring your shirt this whole time. Like, I love it.
Thanks.
Like, yeah. But like having a space in which, you know, you can have clothes that fit your body, but also look really cute. And that's something that like is a form of fat phobia in body positive spaces, is that you'll get like cute, really cute lingerie, but the moment you hit a double D, guess what? You get to wear just beige. You get to just wear beige, boring bras, you know, and or like Savage Fenty, great company. We all love and know Rihanna. But they changed the designs on a lot of their really cute best-selling bras for bigger people. It's not the same bra. And so that's a sign of fat phobia. Like, we can wear the same designs, we can wear the same patterns, the same stuff, but fashion assumes that you can't, because they see fat bodies as not beautiful and deserving of beautiful fashion.
Yeah, I can agree. Like, going off of that, even in the space of my shop, like, we try to make it as body positive as possible. We don't have mirrors in the dressing room. You actually have to come out to look at yourself for all the self-hate that goes on in dressing rooms. But like, it still shows up. Like, some of the side effects of fat phobia, like women coming in and having these images or these ideas of what it is they can and can't wear. Oh, I can't wear crop tops. I can't wear tight fitted dresses. So like, I try to combat that as much as possible, but it still shows up. Or like, I can't stand this. And I try to like combat it as professionally as possible. But when the straight size women come into my shop looking for oversized clothes, no, that stresses me out. And like, yes, the sale is cute, but no. So like, it definitely still shows up. And like, for me, that one is it's the most painful when I have like my target customers inside, and then it's straight size person is, oh yeah, I'm just looking for something oversized. No, you know. So yeah, it definitely still shows up, even when you try your best to try to make it as body positive of a space as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just, oh, that irks me so much, because you're like, oh, I'm going to go look for a sweater. It's fall time. It's getting cold. I need something to cover my body and make sure that I don't like freeze to death. That would be really great. And then you go to try and find your size, and they've all been bought up because everybody wants to dress like Ariana Grande with her big oversized sweater or whatever. And or like, I recently saw a post of a very, very thin fashion model, who was wearing a ginormo blazer. Like, it just didn't fit her, but they're like pawning it off as oversized, but also saying they can't make our sizes.
They can't
like,
make plus size because it would boost the cost up too much, but yet and still you can make oversized clothes. It doesn't really make sense.
Exactly. Oh, it taps my head. But you mentioned crop tops, and I wanted to show like total crop top tits, shorts. I was like,
crop tops in every season.
You know what? Crop tops look good on everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody looks good in crop tops. Plus, like, I saw a tweet that said, free the titties and protect the cities. And I was just like, motto.
I know that's right. You know, that brings me to another, subject. So what is something that you've had to heal, or a thought or behavior that you've had to change along this journey?
I have to I'm coming from like a Hispanic background, but I'm sure a lot of, first generation immigrant kids feel this way, but just this idea of like having to fit the mold of like not being too overtly one or the other, and like showing off your body and like what it comes down to is like, here's like a really good example. So like I'm more plus size compared to my cousin. My cousin has always been more thin compared to me. And usually whenever my family would buy clothes for me and my cousin, we would have similar stuff, but then they would restrict certain things that I could not wear. Like I could not wear short shorts. I could not wear short skirts. I could not wear tank tops because since I was more, you know, plus size compared to my really, you know, thin cousin, they would be like, well, it's acceptable for her because, you know, since she's not going to have like any little bit of fat hanging out, and, you know, we don't want certain people to be looking at you. And it's like, if there's certain people in my household that should not be looking at me, those people should not ever be anywhere in the vicinity. And that's fucking annoying. That I have always had to be self-conscious about what I'm wearing when I'm going outside because there's certain people in the house.
Yes.
Why is that? That is stupid and ridiculous. So having to combat that sort of mindset of being like, I cannot wear this because I don't want a certain person to be looking at me and I need to protect myself. It's like, that's stupid. That makes me less than. And my cousin had the same issue too, where it was like, you know, she even if she gained like a little bit of weight, everybody in the family would start commenting on her. It's like, oh, well, you don't want to be starting to look like, you know, your cousin Kat. And it's like, why are you making us compete against each other, man? Like, we are different people. We have different bodies. Let's accept that and stop making us compete with one another and try to be the better of the two. Like, that's never should be the case. We should accept how we look from beginning to end and encourage the kids. Like, you know, if you want them to be active, you know, have them go out and do activities like, and all that. Just don't be like, we have to cover them and you can only be here and you can only be here and that's it. And that would even go towards with food too. So like I would want Oreos and they would give my cousin more Oreos than even me. And it felt bad. I always felt like I had to be the restricted one, had to always be self-conscious about what I was eating, what I was wearing, everything. It sucks. And now I realize that it was just that sort of old school mindset. And, you know, family now realizing that it's not based off what I eat. Because at the end of the day, and this is a sad realization, is that as time went on, my cousin ended up getting like high cholesterol and she had to get extremely restricted. And it was like the biggest irony out of everything, where it's like they restricted me and then it ended up having her in like really shitty health conditions because they weren't even keeping track of her diet and not being as balanced just because she was thin. And it sucks. Yeah. Just now us realizing all these misconceptions of being fat does not mean you're not healthy. That's the biggest thing. Yeah.
I know from my own experience, I had something kind of similar, Kat, but more so in like I came from a family like as soon as you picked up a little bit of weight, somebody's gonna call you out about it, like every time, like. And I had been pretty skinny and thin growing up my whole life. Like my nickname was Twig, and when I had became, you know, in my 20s, my body started to change. I don't have the body of a 16-year-old anymore. So my hips got wider. And
You shouldn't have the body of a 16-year-old anymore.
That's what I'm saying. And yeah, like, you know, and yeah, I went to college and, you know, listen, that freshman 15 is a real thing. And, you know, I picked up a little weight and, you know, my thighs got bigger and, you know, I just filled out and all of these spaces that I didn't have before, all of a sudden were now starting to come out. And which is normal. I know that now in my 20s, of course, because your body is transitioning, you know, you're becoming a woman for me in my case. And I used to, you know, be really self-conscious about that when I was around my family. Like when I'll be around myself or whatever, I think I'm cool, you know. But then I get around there and somebody say, "Oh, you getting a little thick, huh? You picking up some weight, huh?" I'm like, don't say that to people. Like you never know how someone is going to take that. Like you don't know what's going on in my mind. You don't know what I'm feeling with right now. And I may look like I got this body or whatever, I'm skinny or whatever on the outside, but you don't know what I'm dealing with on the inside. I may not see what you see. And I really struggled with that. And I think one thing that really had an effect on me is I was someone that really grew up in pop culture. Like I was really into celebrities and, all these different, standards of beauty. And I always had this low self-esteem because I never fit those categories. For one, I used to not feel beautiful because the color of my skin and the kinkiness of my hair. And my hips were wider, my lips were bigger, my nose was wider. Like I used to always feel self-conscious about those things because what I was being fed is beautiful was not me. And so I'm like, yo, we got to normalize natural bodies because what you see on Instagram with all these filters, what you see on TV, what you see even in adult films, like that stuff is not real. That stuff is edited. And people a lot of times will put a lot of money and time and energy into, getting this body that, may or may not be, really what you're seeing. So I have to really now as an adult be conscious and aware of that. Like, and I think age, growing older and getting wiser, you don't have the mind of a 16-year-old anymore. You don't take everything as fact. And so now I'm like, yeah, okay. That's definitely an Instagram filter or, not real bodies don't look like that. But yeah, I still, get in my ways. And I'm like, oh, man, why can't I look like that? But then I remember, oh, wait, I'm a human being. I'm a normal human being. And this is my body. My body is perfect just the way it is. And it may not look like that or it may not look like hers or may not look like his, but it's okay. Everybody's body is unique and special. And that's something I've had to learn and I'm still learning. So that's me.
Yeah, going off of that, Anita, like talking about like filling out when you were older, I filled out like in 3rd grade. So like mine was a little different. Like I had the bigger hips, the big butt, the smaller waist, like as a young girl. So I would definitely at a young age, 8, 9, 10, like get catcalled by older men. And like, so for me, something that I had to heal from was like my anger and disgust and hate towards men just from having those experiences based on my body shape and what it looked like at such a young age. And like, I didn't notice it till like I got older and started like going to therapy and things like that. Like I really had a huge hatred towards men that showed up in ways that I didn't never think it would show up. It would show up as, me being very uncomfortable in a room full of people. It could be like 1 or 2 men in there, like just me not being comfortable around them, being able to have like basic relationships with men. And it all stemming from, that young age when that what happened to me. So for me, it was just kind of like recognizing it and being able to have healthy friendships with men, finding men that were not interested in like a sexual relationship with me, just wanted to talk. Let's just have basic conversation and I not try to put a move on you or something like that. But yeah, like having that experience as a young girl, it was, in hindsight, very traumatizing, and it made me show up in ways that I didn't even realize, show up as angry or show up as uninterested in being in situations that I was extremely excited to be at, but just the way I showed from past experiences wasn't reflected in that.
For me, since I was so wrapped up in diet culture that shaped my early 20s. I did Weight Watchers, I counted calories, I worked out multiple times a day. I've been all over the weight spectrum. I've been a size 26 all the way down to a size 10, like all over the place. And I just stopped, it created such disordered eating in my life. I had to restrict everything. For one reason or another, like, oh, I can't have that. Oh, I have to earn this delicious, amazing, mouth-watering cake. I can't eat it. I have to work out first before I eat it. The justification that diet culture puts into you. And so I've been eating because I want to. I've been saying, hey, if I want 3 cookies, I'm going to have 3 cookies. If I want a burger, I'm going to have a burger. oh, that chili looks so good. Yes, please. 2 bowls, please. And so I've not been restricting my intake or saying I have to earn the food that's on in front of me. So eating for joy, because I love eating. I love eating so much, and trying new foods and whatnot, but also like moving for joy. I don't move to earn my food. I don't exercise because I have to, or else no one's gonna like my body or want me. I move because I want to, and because I'm moving because I want to, I'm reminded how much I love doing squats. My butt's looking really good, you know. And I honor my days off, and if I don't want to move, I don't move. Like it's completely removed the expectation that was drilled into me from diet culture and exercise culture. Like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna take care of myself. Instead of restricting my food intake, I'm gonna eat what I want. And not regret that later. You know what I mean? Because like I always had that. I would always overeat later because I would restrict myself now. So I stopped doing that, and it's made a world of difference in like my recovery from disordered eating, as well as diet culture. Because now I'm allowed to enjoy what I'm doing rather than focusing on, oh, I have to do this in order to achieve a body that my body can't achieve.
Yeah, I feel that. I've literally trying to lead by trust your gut, like trust your heart, trust your gut, like bottom line. Yeah, trusting that I know when I want to eat. I know what I can eat, and I don't have to second guess. There's not a voice in my head saying you shouldn't eat that anymore. You know, it's just trusting that I know what's right for my body and my soul and spirit. But as far for my healing, it's all very similar to what's been touched on. I was a little pageant girl for, you know, from 7 to 9, did the talent shows, went across the country for pageant contests and things like that. And I think it created an expectation. And then over a summer, I put on 20 pounds in 4th grade, and my family never looked at me the same. The boys never didn't want to be my boyfriend anymore. And from there, I was in Weight Watchers at, you know, I was 11 years old, and it crumbled and crumbled and fell apart to the point where the only thing I could control was my food leaving my body. And, and it just got so warped and so confused. And I remember when I got to my goal weight of 125 pounds, and I posted on Facebook, I said, I'm at my goal weight, and I've never been more unhappy. And so from now on, it's trusting my own gut and taking it day by day, accepting who I am today, appreciating what I have right now. And that's healing all day long. So I appreciate what everybody said. I feel everything that you guys have touched on. So thank you.
Right. Anything else?
I do have to say, I feel like I've healed from the thought that food being the enemy and that I need food to survive and to feel well. I've had to deal with eating issues since the 5th grade. I remember they were all doing the BMI thing, and I remember all the girls were talking about what their BMI was, and even though mine was in the normal range, I wasn't the skinniest in the classroom, and I lost a lot of weight, and I would like feel my bones at night, and I still would feel horrible on the inside. So I started to eat and saw eating as a good thing and it helping me. And I really feel like that's really healed me in my ways I think about food.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, everyone. Well, we're coming to the end. I thank you all for joining me and having this conversation, this dialogue about this amazing topic that needs to be talked about. And we got to normalize body positivity. We got to keep talking. We got to keep the dialogue going. I appreciate everyone for sharing everything that you all have said. I hope that you all take what you have said and you know, really let things work inside yourself and really move inside yourself so you can heal, continue to progress forward. I know everything you said has really had an impact on me, and I appreciate your share. So, all right, again, thank you everybody for joining us, everyone watching at home. Thank you all for participating. Again, I'm going to introduce you all again. We have Tanith, we have Nicole, JD, Ashton, Kat, Alesha, and I'm Nita, aka Water if you're thirsty. Ow.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you all guys soon. Connect with each other and We'll be back next month. Bye.
NDKC Hot Dish.